Right. Miles just letting me know when we go live. I think we said we're going live right now.
It's about
Time to have some fun. And we are live. My beautiful people, I'm Warren Snipe. Welcome. I don't know if you're confused or not. That's good because this is not that kind of show. Right now, I want to give thanks to the panel that are here with us today. The topic we're talking about is systemic racism, Black Deaf experience. Well, who we have on the panel, before we begin, I also want to offer my apologies. I think we're supposed to have Cart online. We do have 3 interpreters that are here. Jeff Bowden, say your own name.
Jacinda Damas.
and Letitia Bino.
So good evening. Before we begin, I know you all probably have a lot of questions, but please, if you could, insert them in the chat. And if we have time, and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to work with it, I would like to maybe kind of look them over and respond to them. We really will kind of make sure that we have the most powerful, most poignant questions come out first. So welcome all of you. I want to start with Ryan with the Oregon University, Ryan Gale. Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe about, the elevator talk, if you could.
Hello, my name is Ryan Gale. I work at the Western Oregon University. I am the Assistant Director for Disability Services. I'm also the advisor at NYU. I'm also on the Commissioner Board for DHS Advisor Team.
Great, great. Next, we have Cheryl Emery. And I think now she's
In Colorado, and yes, Colorado. I am.
So tell us something about yourself, Cheryl.
Yes. So yes, I am Cheryl Emery, and it's from my smile. This goes from left to right. Just want to clarify on my sign name. But yes, I live here in Colorado. I lived before in Michigan, and I have a number of years of experience as an advocate. I was the first director for NBDA. And most recently, I was working full-time with the director for the Division of Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services at the state agency for the state of Michigan.
All right, great, great, great. Next, we have Isidore, who's now the current president of the National Black Deaf Advocates. So I know he has his eyes on what's going on, and a lot of people are really working with him. So maybe we want to get a little bit about yourself, Isidore, if you could. Well, I'm not sure, more or less, how much? So I try to keep it contained and brief. I wear many hats, and tonight I'm here as president of NBDA, which is the National Black Deaf Advocates. I'm an international person, grew up in Benin, and a full-time job with HR director
at Convo?
Convo, which is communication services. I have a certification there. And I have, I'm just looking forward to really talking to you about the system of racism and how it makes an impact on us. Great, great, wonderful, wonderful. And the last person I want to bring to the fore, but last but not least, Kojo Amish. He's a professor at Guyana University and an amazing musician and artist. And so Kojo, you're on.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. Hello, panelists, my brothers, my sisters here. It's so good to see you. My name is Kojo Amisa. This is my sign name. And the sign name was given to me by Andrew Foster, who was one of the visitors to the school. He actually visited Ghana, I'm sorry, and visited the school there. And so he asked me what my sign name was, and I had no answer for him. And so he gave me one. And that was the first time that I met him, and I had no idea what that meant. And there was no questions or please. So right now, I am a professor at Gallaudet. I am a consultant, an adjunct professor in the communications department. I'm very happy to be here to talk about the systemic racism and the educational system.
All right, okay. So now that the introductions are out of the way, again, the topic, systemic racism, the Black Deaf experience. And I think we're going to approach this from a variety of different points of views. And if you don't mind, I know that we'll try to add some humor. I know we have some things that are in common. But I think the bottom line is that, you know, it's something that we want to teach you. I think we want to really get into some very seriousness of it. I mean, we're looking at it from a global perspective. Hello to all the people all over the world, to people in England, to people in Jamaica, to people in Germany, to people all over the United States, South America, my brothers and sisters here. We see what's going on, and it's a crisis everywhere. So what we're going to do is start. What I want to do is, we've been watching on the movie. I don't know if you've seen this movie. It was a video made by a person named Natasha.
Stormy Smith and
Stormy
Natasha
Smith and
Hill, the two of them.
Hill. And it says, "I'm next." I don't know if you're familiar with that piece. Have anyone seen it? Just wondering now. So if we start with that. It's something I know that you just can't avoid. What happened in Minnesota, the impact and how that impacted you. So anybody want to talk about that as a start, how that incident impacted you?
I'll go ahead and start. For me, I mean, that video is very touching, that short film, because in daily life, walking in Oregon, I mean, to let you know, the state of Oregon has about 3% of Black people in the entire state. So every day walking around as a Black man, I see white people everywhere, and I have to be code switching to accommodate them, to match them. And code switching is a struggle. And after a while, I've known like code switching would be exhausting for me, and I would just return back to being myself. And I would realize that when I would be myself, a lot of eyes would be on me. So if I would be into a store, you know, someone would look at me, and I would, you know, put on a face and be like so polite. But now it's just like, it is what it is, and I'm being who I am. And now I'm thinking, oh, okay, what if they call the cops on me now, and someone tackles me or attacks me? And in my heart, I'm like, I'm gonna get up and fight back. But now that I have a family, I have 2 kids, if I did experience brutality or violence, I would have to think about what my next move is. Am I next is the question in my head. And that's stressful to think about, to overanalyze and unpack everything, you know. If someone behaves a certain way, what does that mean? I have to figure out what the meaning is behind every little thing. If a cop comes up in my presence, I have to think, okay, why are they here? I mean, there's a lot of things in my mind.
And I mean, if you could talk about, you know, something I went through as well. Since the situation erupted, there's been more awareness about the interaction that we have, how people perceive us. Where does it start? Does it start with me? And so sometimes I have to start in on my own. And as a man, I know I have children myself, and I have to really explain to them about the situation, confrontation. I talk to them about, how we deal with the police department. I have to talk to my son, who's even now at the age of 6, but he's 15, and my daughter, who is last week, on Nightline in the morning, Nightlight, she was crying. I didn't know what was going on. So I went in and checked on her and see how she was doing. And so
this was a nightmare.
She had a nightmare. And so she had a vision that someone was being shot. And then she is at the age of 12 thinking these things. So I had to really explain to my children. And I shouldn't have to do that. You know what I mean? I shouldn't have to do that. But it is impacting them. And I want to know how is it impacting you as well. Well, I can see that, obviously. And if I'm able to kind of add to that, we have a double perspective that we have to deal with every day in our behavior. And if I can give you an example, it's easier to become comfortable with racism. You kind of get used to it when you go into the store, when you make a purchase, you may be buying something like a soft drink or something or anything, but it's easy when you leave it and you realize all of the things that builds up. So when George Floyd was murdered, that's when it became reality for me. And I had to there was evidence right there. It was clear for everyone to see. And if someone were to make that up, as far as somebody with a knee on their neck, you have that, but you couldn't. So I think it was a drive, as I'm driving, as I investigate, my car in the afternoon, and then I was ready to leave but I didn't have any broken lights or anything. So they checked my car and the police officer pulled me over. But still, you really don't know when you're being pulled over what's going to happen. This morning, I had to really recognize the issues of privilege. And while I was motivated, I think when you look at all over the world, and my next, that movie, it talks about the new opportunities in sports. All the various facets are now being removed from us as Black deaf people. I'm trying to really look at it from a variety of perspectives. And if I was in a safe environment, as opposed to the toughness of these times, but I still have to make sure that I'm able to provide them any reason for them to do something so that they could be able to be excused from judging me. Cheryl?
So I'm the mom of 4 children, and my children are grown. They're up to the age of 35, so I'm done, quote unquote, in the sense of parenting them. But I remember when my children were small, I would think in the back of my mind, if they were to go, we had several corner stores in our neighborhood, and I would send my child, to the corner store. And I would have to say subconsciously, I always would tell my kids, make sure, guys, you get that receipt and bring that receipt home with you. It was a subconscious talk. And it was something that I was teaching my kids, that they had to prove themselves. And that was an item of being safe. You didn't want anyone to accuse them of stealing from the store. But myself, video, am I next? It was important for me because as a deaf Black woman, I'm always cognizant of that. There are several times I'm driving around and I'm thinking about if the police would pull me over, and I'm just surveying what's going on.
Just having the eye contact would stop me, and I would think about this on my drive back home.
Thank you. And I know the police would look at me. And I remember the police was trying to follow me, and they kept staring me down. And I'm looking at them to get my eye contact, and then they stopped me. And so for a minute, I was just thinking, thank God that they went to the side. But then when the sirens went on, my heart started beating fast. And they stopped me because my taillight was out. I mean, I was aware of it. I knew my taillight was always working, but I was minding my own business, but they pulled me over for no reason. They were like, oh, allow me to check. So fine, I got out. And they were like, no, you have to stay inside the car. And I'm like, okay, fine. Let me just stay inside the car. And they said, let me see your license. And I said, I know I have a clean record, so I have nothing to hide. I have no reason for them to, penalize me for any such reason. I have a clean record. But I gave them my license, and they looked into my record. And still, in the back of my mind, I saw them looking beyond my eyes. And I just knew that they were trying to find something on me.
Driving while Black. Kojo.
Yeah, I actually wanted to comment about a video, an application to the education environment. But before I get into that, I just wanted to share a little bit of history relating to that, relating to how we as a people are always next in the educational environment. Many people don't know about Myler VRS, on the United States Board of Education, whichever the might miss the name, integration judicial system. Because that family who was deaf had to send their children to the Maryland School for the Deaf from DC. Now this family isn't living in poverty, has to pay living paycheck to paycheck, and decided to file a lawsuit to keep the children who live in Maryland, to send them to the Clerk Center, which means that was the first time where we were denied from the Clerk Center at Gallaudet University. And this was before Brown versus the Board of Education. And many people don't realize that history. And the impact that the systemic racism has against our people. And yes, we are always next. Current research proves that Black children are the highest in special education. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Or are in the highest to be sent home, or in the highest percentage rate to be sent home. They're labeled as problematic children. Black children are in the highest rate to get severe punishments or severe consequences in the school system. I mean, there's research available that proves that. So I'm like, so are we next? Yes. Yes, it doesn't matter whether you don't understand, whatever label you have in the educational system, our children, Black children, are always vulnerable. I missed the beginning, whichever missed the beginning, but we have to experience that one way or another. And I'm inspired and at the same time heartbroken, frustrated, disappointed that even in the year 2020, and in the situation that's going on right now, we have people in leadership roles in our educational system that is allowing this practice of systemic racism to persist. So the question is, are we next? And the answer is always.
And what's next?
The system is changed.
And what exactly is next? What's our goals?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. As white students, do whatever y'all got to do. Read the history before making conclusions, before making decisions, before you oppress someone or put someone down, call someone names, label someone as lazy. You know, to think that Black children are stupid. Read y'all history. And it'll show y'all that that kind of behavior is not right in any school system. But here, we are always next.
If I could add, thank you, Kojo. I mean, really, are we next? As far as the Black deaf kids, and the way that their rights to education has been stolen from them. I mean, before I got into this discussion, I just left the NBDA board meeting. Our vice president has been advocating for various
IEP meetings.
Meetings. And so we counted 7 Black deaf children who have nowhere to go in school for next fall. Their program has been canceled. Their IDPs have been canceled. And it's a common theme when we're talking about how their behavior is affected and their academic performance. So we truly are next. And now the next step is, what do we do about it? How do we raise the issues for the school for the deaf to be able to support, that is supported by state funds and government funds? They should be invested in that issue. And it's not too late. That's very true. So I don't know if anybody wants to follow up on anything, because the next thing I want to talk about, and Isidore, you may want to talk about that, because you talked about your role as president of NBDA and the Black deaf community. Have you noticed anything different that's going on? What are you anticipating? What do you think are the goals? Wow, that's a pretty tough question. Thank you. Well, I mean, it's okay. I think you can relax. Well, fortunately, we have 2 weeks from the time we had to work. So the COVID-19 /
Thank you, Convo.
From Convo.
Convo.
I had 2 weeks off before starting my next position.
Oh, okay, 2 weeks before I started my next position. So, we're grieving at the same time. I think one of the issues that we have to pay attention to is that there are several who have a Black Lives Matter protests that's happening in America, all over the continent. And it's been inspiring to see Black deaf people are now starting to show up at those protests. They know that they are so inspired to be a part of it. So I've noticed that our allies are now being able to look within themselves, knowing that they have accountability, that they need to take action. But we also need to pay attention to several of the behaviors that can be a distraction to the overall goal, that can really take advantage of the issues. We have to be able to pick.
Oklahoma for the Juneteenth anniversary.
People who are running for office, they have to be aware of the fact that they're killing the Black person's chance to be a participant. So you have to be aware that there will be distractions. But this week been full of
Kappa Gamma, the fraternity.
Gamma,
there's a lot of distraction on what's going on.
That whole issue is coming to distraction as well. Now, consider there are breakdowns in the system, but it's not sure if that is ongoing, it can be resolved when there are so many more serious issues that our Black community should be facing. I think the third point I want to make, this morning as I was reading, there was some new, I don't know what to say, some kind of new campaign that will divide the Black deaf community into sections, label them based on whether their heritage goes back to slavery in that category, or if you weren't born or have a heritage of slavery and how that may exclude you. We'll see where those type of classifications will lead. Is it work to our benefit to be divided that way? I think we have to look at it from different perspectives. The parents whose kids are trying to go to school to get their degree. And as I told you,
for instance, if the children were to go to school and they were going to get sticks, and each person brings their sticks and they come back and they break those sticks. I mean, some of them are easy, like they're twigs, they're easy to break, but then there are some sticks that are harder to break. But again, if all those small pieces we put all together and we wrap them up together in one little ball, and now we go ahead and break that, you can't. So all these broken sticks come together, they're unbreakable. In Bundi, we learned about our history of colonization and how people took over. Europe came and took over Africa. One of the most successful weapons to take down that country was what? Division. Division. When you divide the community, everyone becomes weak, everyone becomes fearful, and they have no idea what their future will hold for them. So now Black people, as we are here, I ask that we not divide. A house divided cannot stand. So therefore, the system is trying to copy that. They're trying to divide us Black individuals. And it's a waste of time. The youth are involved in the protests now. And we have to stand with each other. We have to have that mindset of solidarity, because that is what will hold our future. And so that is what I think that it's time for. It's time for us to think about how do we collectively come together? Think about, we have one voice, one mind, one togetherness. As we come together, we achieve that goal. And they can't break us. All those small sticks together, that bundle of small broken sticks, as we are one. And then we disseminate and we go out into community, but still as one. And that's how we make progress. That's how we make progress as a collective whole.
Thank you so much. There's an American film called Soul Food. And I remember the grandmother explaining to the family, you see this hand and the fingers are spread out and they're separated. And you can see they're not gonna make an impact that way. But when you ball those fingers up into a fist, they become a powerful weapon that can beat down the table. And all of them took a look at that and realized that it was unity and partnership that was important. So thank you for that. I know we probably have about a half hour left, and wow, I have so much more to say. So we want to kind of keep our answers contained for the time that we have left. Cheryl, I want to kind of focus on you a little bit. You mentioned before, wow, the power and how you explained the video of the school system, and definitely hearing nonetheless how working against racism. So, and I know about that. I was wondering though, what happened when the school takes a stock of what they're going through, when they can do the analysis? And the evidence is right there, but they really deal with it from a superficial perspective and think that they can play tape. But if we see it return over and over again, and we see the recidivism.
Honestly, we have all the names. We have Gallaudet, we have NTID, RID, Sorensen, Purple, CSD. We have each of those companies that have the history of racism. And people are trying to clean it up by, I'm sorry. You know what? Yeah, no. Your apology, you're apologizing because of your fear that your money is going to get taken away. Where's the sincere apologies? Even with CSD, where is the sincere apologies? Will apologies change anything? I remember 4 years ago, Nunu, she was on a panel and she was talking. She was sharing about oppression. She was sharing about her experiences regarding racism. And I remember 2 days ago, I watched a video and she was sitting on her vlog grieving. She was raw with emotions, with tears in her eyes. I mean, it was mind-blowing. And I remember I was reading an article. They were saying something about whiteness. And I'm thinking, wait, that's the same situation. Girl, I mean, what are we doing? Why are Black kids still experiencing this? Why are our people still experiencing this? The Maryland School for the Deaf, Nunu was talking about her experience there and the oppression she experienced, the discrimination. And she was talking about 4 years ago. And here we are again in 2020 talking about the same thing, the Maryland School for the Deaf. And here they come. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but your sorries don't do nothing. Your sorries don't pay me. Your sorries aren't giving me back my education that I lost. It's not. I want them, the schools, I want them to stop talking with their apologies and put some actions behind those apologies.
Amen.
Amen, sister.
I want you to, yes, you can, donate funds, but I want the attitude of people, the behaviors of people, the policies of people, the practices of people to change. Nothing has changed. Act as loud as you talk with your apology. How about that? If your money is there, then put actions behind your talk. That's what I want to see. And then things will change. Your attitudes will change. When it hits your pockets, things will change. People are biased. And again, that is what will cause change to happen. Change must happen. We can't keep having this going around the same conversation. Change must happen.
All right, all right. That's true talk. And I know something we can't avoid when we need to think about the Black people, the Black deaf people. They're screaming and been screaming for many years. And now that's the real time for them to wake up and been woke. It can't be because of so many years. We've been screaming all this time, pay attention to this, look at this. I mean, we're trying to be patient through all these things and all we get is this blank look. It's like the alarm clock that goes off and you continue to press the snooze button. But it's not until it hits you in the face that you realize, oh my gosh, that alarm is for me. But now the clock is broken. Now it's time for you to put it into action. Words and action makes change happen. So now I want to pose the next question, and I want to direct this towards Kojo. So I hope you're with us. You're okay, brother? You're a teacher now, professor. So now, as we've been seeing what's been going on in the school, in the business world, and the actions that have been taking place, and the system's trying to make some sort of adjustment racially. But what do you think are the long-term solutions that should be worked on so that we look at the Black myopic?
Both in the school and personal.
Make sure that how do we look at that and again?
Ooh, Wawa, that is a loaded question.
Yeah, it's packed.
Yes, thank you for that sign. Yeah, this is a big sandwich that you just gave me right here that I have to like digest somehow. Ooh, okay. Well, first of all, the history of Black people, again, I have to reiterate, we were enslaved and brought here. And similarly to what Isidore said, we were divided. And many of those divisions had an opportunity to develop a language to share with each other, to be able to give each other support through the division. So that's the first step. The second step is what they did is they took away the opportunity to learn. And that's something to teach y'all right now. There's a history lesson for you guys. So any of y'all who learned about slavery, you guys know what the consequences happened. There was whipping. And then in relation to young children who are deprived of education, a lot of them didn't have the opportunity to read. And in the education system currently, that is related to
that
today's.
Goes back to slavery and where they were whipped and beat if they were trying to be educated. So is that a semblance of what we're seeing today with our kids?
And with the integration of mainstream schools or with white students, they weren't allowed to teach. I mean, they weren't allowed to learn in the same classroom with the white student. So now, for example, we have leaders in the education system who are brave enough to serve on the board, who know better about what's going on in the educational system in regards to teaching and to talk about the Nazi history in the educational system. And for them to be called out from the hearing, by the hearing forum, they would apologize for their behavior. And they had an opportunity to apologize in a sincere manner. And so what they did, they tried to give donations to the hearing organization that had nothing to do with the educational belief in deaf education. So what's the message here? So for Black people, especially Black deaf people, the message there is that they don't deserve a good education. And so to donate the money to hearing education. And that created an educational environment that had a severe impact on our Black children, including me. I am a doctor. I am Dr. Asima. I published a book, but in the educational system, my knowledge, my publications are always in question, simply because of the color of my skin. So imagine children writing their research papers and they would submit it to a white teacher, a white professor, or are experiencing the white systemic educational system are always in critical view. One friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, who was a student, brilliant Black man. He had a friend who was white and they were both deaf. And my friend here is a brilliant poet. Some of his work you can find on Facebook. And so these two gentlemen had a class together, and they had a research paper inside. And the Black students, my friend, had a lower grade compared to the white student, and they were both confused. The white student asked him, like, why do you have a lower grade than me? And I'm the one who can't really write that well. And so what they decided was to trick the professor and switch papers. And still, after submitting the papers that they switched and talking with the teacher that they submitted it to, the Black student still had a lower grade. And so we have to send the message to change the environment, to change the system, and that Black and white students are equal, and Black students deserve this. And this is called self-fulfilling prophecy.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Thank you. Thank you. And doing that to Black students prevents them the opportunity to learn, and labels them dumb, calls them dumb. And repeatedly doing that, they encompass that. And this is what my book that I wrote, and this is what I published is about. So Dr. Graham Anderson, I'm interpreting that's the first name.
Glenn Anderson.
Thank you. Who challenges white people. Mind you, he has a PhD and serves on the board of trustees for 11 years now. And then he applied to become president. So a Black student came up and said, quote, diversity is dead. And that was ignored. And so when the protests happened, guess what? They blamed the Black students on campus.
Sister Pam Lloyd.
Thank you. Who serves on the board of trustees, applied for the presidential role. and got into the final 3, and someone else was chosen to fill that role. And she was the most qualified. It took me
list all of those areas.
Thank you. Who I am all these roles, and finally, I was told that I wasn't good enough. And so the educational system has been broken since day one. And it's been difficult for us to climb the ladder. So children, especially Black children, even now, and you'll find, and research finds that most white kids who have Black professors do 10 times better, which is interesting. So Dr. Graham did some research and wanted to put a qualified Black man in a leadership position. But now as we speak, some of the same people who are using Nazi models or Nazi
symbols
or dictatorship are still involved in the educational system. I mean, why are you encouraging racism in this place and putting that onto innocent children for them to learn? They need to be held accountable for the dismantling of the system now. And now George Floyd is, the fall guy, right? And everyone else has this alarm that's waking them up, and people are pressing snooze. Stop that.
We have to deal with the white leadership to get the truth. The people from the various positions of power. Go ahead and take it.
Go ahead, Jeff.
And dealing with the inequality, both pros and cons.
I wanted to chime in.
I think Cheryl wanted to say something.
Yes, I wanted to add to what Kojo just shared, because it has been bothering me and bothering me. Dr. Angela McCaskill.
Yes. Oh, sister, sorry. I'm so sorry. Forgive me, McCaskill.
Yes, there's so many things wrong with that.
Exactly.
Now, I'm looking at some people at Gallaudet. And I mean, I don't mean to talk about Gallaudet, but she did that sister wrong. For real. Many of us were thinking, Angela has potential to become the first Black deaf president of Gallaudet University. Many of us saw it coming. She is rising to the top.
Amen.
She is rising. And they were basically trying to tear her down, period. Point blank. They're destroying her, professionally and personally. Will they do the same thing to a man who was standing here right now? Would they? Like everyone's saying.
Next?
Are we next?
Exactly. I'm thinking, are they scared of us? That our career, that we can actually make it. I mean, I don't see any of them treat other people the way that they have treated Dr. Angela McCaskill. Gallaudet has so many issues with their system. Is this not right? The educational system is broken, period. Our healthcare system, broken. One of the first persons to die from coronavirus in Detroit, Black woman.
Yeah.
Black woman. Our prison system, broken. Can we say it again? VR, broken. The interpreter education programs, broken. The system itself needs a complete uphaul. The deaf system, the Black deaf community, it needs a complete turn upside down.
It has it twice as bad.
I want to share an experience that I had already shared with Rain. With his permission, I have to share this tonight.
I love you,
I
Ryan.
love you, Rain. Love you too. But I had the opportunity to have a conversation with him. And I was so excited. I was working at the state of Michigan at that time. And my interview team, oh, they loved Ryan. Oh, he was qualified for that position. The HR department didn't hire Ryan. Oh, he's not American. He's looking for a green card, they said. And now I'm like, I'm not working for the state of Michigan anymore. People who are there are half as qualified than this man named Ryan Guile that stood there that day and were interviewed. They lost my respect that day. They hired instead who? A white deaf woman instead of hiring a Black deaf man. That is institutionalized racism right there in your face. When we talk about intersectionality, we have that here. We're not discriminated once. We're not discriminated twice. We get discrimination in all facets of our life. The system is broken. Our voices need to be heard. Our stories need to be shared.
There's so many things. I mean, my goodness, so much on my heart right now.
It's frustrating. It's seriously.
I know it's frustrating. Yeah. A lot of things that are happening in this situation right now. The question maybe I can give to Ryan, and you can talk about it in your own narrative way. About 3 days ago, person asked me a question. How do you feel about this situation? What's going on? He had a friend that's Black, and he also has a friend that's white. And they've known each other for 10 years. They were raised together. They had their kids grow up together. Children almost the same age. So they asked my friend, and I was about to say, are you an ally? But you want the protest to stop?
The white person said, like, I'm only protesting as an ally until it stops.
So I was like, well, what are you getting at? They obviously wanted me to pass this on, but I sat down with them and I was trying to see where they were coming from. The word allyship. What does that actually mean? And they said that when they were talking, there's also white people that they may have the same sort of kinship about what's going on, but so during the protests, as we're seeing it globally, and now we see the various allies and partnerships that are being established, and then he wanted to explain to the people Obviously, this mean this, and they see it put more of a front on allies, but who's, you know, who's behind it? And so maybe they're partnering with you in complaint, but is that what they mean?
I just want to clarify to the people out there, you know, those people that are saying, oh, I'm just showing allyship just until this stops. This has been going on forever. Even in past situations, they would be like, oh, I'm just supporting until this stops. You know, with the MLK movement, the MLK march, you know, that was getting big. And so white people would say, okay, I'll join here until it stops. So that kind of stuff didn't end. And again, in this situation, imagine the next protest. What would it look like? It's going to be a lot worse, you know. We're still covering some things. Like, it hasn't gone out. It hasn't gone to its full potential yet. And so I also want to say to the people who are saying, you know, I'm only as an ally until this stops. Other people who don't say that straight up, but they are saying that in their behavior, like Cheryl mentioned, like with their apologies, I'm sorry, and I'm in solidarity. It's like giving them one fish. You know that statement, you give a man a fish, and but that person doesn't want to give us a fish. They actually expect us we expect like a damn boat, or, you know, something way more bigger than just a fish. I don't want them to feed me. Let me feed myself. Just give me what I need, the resources to go do that. Now, I understand some people, you know, are talking about allyship or say they're an ally because they don't know what else to do. And I get that. But at the same time, we have so many resources out there. And let me let you in on a secret. There's something called Google, just so y'all know, that y'all can use.
Right,
I mean,
now.
Google,
Yes.
Google is
people,
like
people.
it's like a library, you know. Let me tell you, it'll just blow your mind. There's so much information in there for days, and there's something in there that you'll find in there. So I encourage y'all to do your research, educate yourselves. Don't depend on Black or people of color to educate y'all. I mean, we are tired of doing that. That's one thing you guys can do as an ally, to educate yourselves and watch, you know, the Black people, what their grievances are, you know, what do they talk about, who they want to vote for when it comes to candidacy. Listen, you know, if you want to talk about politics, ask the politician what they're doing for people of color or Black people. And if they don't have anything to say, then don't vote for them. Allyship means that you all are held accountable as well, not just Black people. Y'all hold them accountable. Y'all protect the community and support the community. And it's all for one, right? So if y'all don't, if one person is supported, that means I'm not supported either. And it's not just, you know, you know, I have a job as a white person, I don't need it, I'm all good. But no, I mean, look at all these people that are jobless. I mean, help them, support them, and advocate for them, you know. And so when that saying again, when it's like, oh, I'll feed them a fish, I mean, it don't work that way. Engage in conversation, recognize how they are. If you see something that's oppressive or any type of microaggression toward them, then speak out, call them out. You know, call them out on it. And if they try to defend themselves and, oh, maybe it's just, no, it's not that time. So that's it.
Thank you. That was an amazing response. As you know, Will Smith had a quote saying that racism didn't occur with the gun, but because it ended
Racism was
because people saw it. So the question is how much racism people overlooked all these times. They've not been exposed to it. And I know that you all maybe have experienced it as well. So I know there's a picture, and I'd like to show that to you, and then get your impressions of what that picture may represent. Miles, if you could show that picture now. Miles, I hope he's still there. I'm here. All right, let's get going. Well, I know, as you know, I want you all to take a look at that and give me your impressions, and even the audience too. Take a look at it and see how you can interpret it. It's like an iceberg, if I could describe it before you see it. And so you see the water line on the iceberg, and you see just the little part on top. You only see the tip of the iceberg. But when you look at the total effect of racism, it is the hidden part below the waterline. So as you see that picture, I don't know, Miles, if you had a chance to work with it or not, but nonetheless, as you can see, that picture really talks about what racism looked like. If you look at the ship, they only see the tip of the iceberg, and it's easy for them to overlook it. But you know how many years and how many people have suffered under racism? So, tip of the iceberg is nothing, but when you scan out and you culminate all the aspects of racism, from the time we got to these shores today, and you list
from the 1600s, the days of slavery, until now.
To now, and the impact of this country. Can you manage how our people were brought here since 1600s, generations upon generations?
How can we continue to carry all of that racism from the 1600s all until now?
So the family talked about the generational effects of it. The grandfather who's killed by this situation, and how it gets passed down and passed down. And now we have all of that as a burden upon ourselves. And those are the things that we never will forget. Things are still part of our culture, our history. And things that we remember and can never forget. And now it affects our personality, how we carry it within our own hearts, and how people have died. And many who were unfair. And so that burden that we've been trying to tell people for all this time and continue to be ignored. And the question is, why do we say that we're tired? That is why we're tired. Enough is enough. That is why we say we're done with this. And as you can see from that poster, it says, in the past, slavery allowed you to beat the person. And now today, in the year 2020, it still allows you to abuse us. But that's how people have been feeling. And so for many years, the fear that was been put upon, both mentally and spiritually, and we're consistently walking under that heavy shadow, on that fence, trying to always constantly be on guard. And there's a story of how racism, and said, well, you're white, you know, you're nice, you're friendly and everything, but through so much tears. And now we had to choose to be strong. We had to choose not to be imprisoned by it. We had to choose how to have our defenses against that so it wouldn't happen again, even though it's out of our control. We don't want to see it happen again. And so now the question for every one of my panelists, in light of what has just been going on in the past few weeks,
The topic is defunding the police. I'm wondering
defunding, defunding the police. Does it mean that the police department will be shut down, or we were talking about reallocation of the realignment of the police department? So perhaps you could talk a little bit about what you believe defunding and dismantling mean and how it will work.
So I think I'm the oldest out of the crowd. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk.
All right, no problem. You know I'm next, as the movie says.
So I'm old enough to remember Waco. Any of y'all remember Waco?
You remember the move in Philadelphia?
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember that. Yes.
Hey.
I remember that move.
There
Yes.
when the police moved on that house, that organization called Move. That was actually 4 blocks from there. That was there
awful,
when
right?
they bombed that house.
Oh my gosh. I can't even speak to it. I mean, the police, they were using guns on our people, but they were shooting our people. Kids, they were shooting. I mean, our police, the military, they ate up most of the budget. The reason we have so many people who are on the streets
Who are mentally
ill is because they took that money away from mental recovery programs and gave it to who? The police. They got the money from education and they gave it to prisons. The youth into recreation programs for deaf children, programs for Black kids. That money went to the prisons. That money went to the police. Money for senior citizens, the police, prison systems. So we were left with nothing. Basically, programs to deter from violence, to train our kids, job opportunities were gone. Programs to take care of the elderly, gone. Where'd that money go? Where did all that funding go? To the military and the police. So now we're talking about defunding the police. I mean, we would have no protection, quote unquote. Oh, please. Many of our Black and brown kids don't have the police. They took the money from us a long time ago. The police, they're basically killing us. They're not protecting us. They are killing us. They are abusing us. Police brutality. Say it. Defund the police. That doesn't mean anything. That money should be redirected to programming, to fund the community. So honestly, we'll still have people, quote unquote, protecting us. But we'll have, quote unquote, peacekeepers. I mean, that's a big difference than the police.
Cheryl, I'm with you with that. I just wanted to say, I just recently reposted on my Facebook page after I'd done some research, and I found out that, hold on, let me back up real quick. So the police corporation has some racism in there, right? There's a systematic racism set up in there in the police force, and still they are funded greatly, while the Black community are funded very little. So if there are issues in the Black or people of communities, the police department will be funded greatly with guns and other things like that, and to go against the Black and people of color communities. Now, the criminal rates with white and Black people are the same. The drug use percentage with Black and white people,
Yep. Nope. That's true. Yeah.
the Black and people of color communities. And so when in the white communities, the police, they don't take them, or they don't have severe consequences, compared to the Black and people of color communities. And so even though the white people have weapons and all that, they spotlight the Black and people of color communities to be like, oh, they are criminals, these are thugs, they have weapons and all that. And for them, there's no opportunity to pull them up and to give them power. That's all lacking. And so this defund the police, what that means for me is to have a reformation, to de-escalate the funds and where it's not needed, aka the police fund at the police department, and invest that in communities that are needed. My interpreter missed that.
Purge. Mm-hmm. The movie name?
So it's not like a purge or anything like that. Like, we're not gonna, if we defunded the police, there's not gonna be a purge going on. We're not that dumb.
Isadora, thank you, Ray, man. Okay, let me compose myself. Defunding the police department is really talking about empowering the people, empowering the community. We didn't talk about that when they talk about the history of the systemic system and how they divided us and separated us. And then they came up with the idea of including fear that made us a threat. Then they stole our children. And as Rain said, put money back into the community that has already decided the kind of security that we needed. So as I was watching the President Obama list recommendation after recommendation, the best practices on how to deal with policing, and they wouldn't even own that. NBDA is thankful to the people who donated money, and now we are now realizing that we need to support more than ever. And the reason being that we need every Black deaf person and every Black deaf person as well, for you to do what you can in your city council to vote and make those proposals and recommendations, and your local budget, be involved in that. So they whenever they plan, that money goes back into the community and the community leadership. That way we can get some action. And then we'll be able to make the decisions based on that reinvestment. Which, I missed that word, but what it means is restructuring. Making sure that they don't have less money for education, for hospital programs, for recreation, for arts, that money is diverted over there. And we will need to change the tradition and the false concept of being saved.
Yep, that's true. That's very true.
I just want to give you a little bit of content here because, the reason why we have police departments in the first place that question, mind you, has never been asked, how police departments have been established. It has been established as slave patrols. And if y'all know the story in the Black community, if y'all in the Black community, maybe you might recognize this, but anyone who were enslaved back then were looked for by the police. And so, I mean, are y'all surprised why and how they're killing us today? I mean, compared to what the reason why they were established in the first place. So they detain us so that way we don't escape. And I think maybe 150 years ago, they decided to change the name into, what was that? Help me out. What's that? Interpret missed. But there was it became a union through a riot, and y'all can make connections today. The police was designed to be violent, okay? And then in the late 60s, after all of the Martin Luther King protests and movement went around, people started realizing, okay, we need to reevaluate here. And it started conforming and changing in the 70s and 80s. And so the police department changed as, oh, we are here to protect and serve. And so there's a little bit of history for y'all there. And Ryan mentioned, if y'all want to learn more, go to Google, okay? Secondly, right now, defunding the police means that we have to remove the Second Amendment, which is the gun rights. Police officers have guns, have weapons, and interpret them as that second part.
But also the right to bear arms. And so,
right. So our
go ahead.
So our right to bear arms, you know, for our personal protection is what the Second Amendment says. And so if we remove that, we can strive closer to removing the police department. I mean, if we were to remove the Second Amendment, that comes in contradiction to having the police department. And for me personally, my opinion here is the system of defund, the word defund, what does that mean? For the Second Amendment, I mean, if we remove that, I mean, then
let's remove guns from the police. Why not that?
Right, that makes sense to me. The problem is guns, right? In America, America has always invested in weaponry and guns, and that's why we have the Second Amendment here to protect those who come here and bring weapons. So to defund the police, honestly, to me, I mean, it sounds like a joke. I don't feel like it's not going to happen. We need to redesign the system where police are required to go to schools for 4 years, right? Have a 4-year college education, pass a test, get the training, maybe a communal relationship kind of training.
On how to be developing human relationships.
That's the word, thank you. And that's never been taught in the educational system, which doesn't make sense. And, you know, they have a course in 6 months compared to maybe the many years that it's required to maybe learn all that. And so how can we see the big picture here? The system has always relied as police as scapegoats. And so whoever votes makes the rules. I mean, what kind of society or system is there? And I mean, and so clearly the whole system has to change. And how can we reach out to the people who are on top, maybe essentially controlling the system? And I mean, the course changes then. right? I mean, I'm sorry, the Constitution will have to change. The Bill of Rights will have to change. To dismantle the police, I mean, that's not going to be
Very true.
so
Very true.
racism is a approach. And the system, I mean, it's very easy to navigate throughout the police system. My own father has taught me that when a cop pulls you over, put both hands on the wheel. Wait for the officer to approach you, and you reply with yes, sir, no, sir. You don't even touch the radio, right? You don't want to be jamming while the police officer comes. You got to calm down,
right.
collect yourself, turn the radio down, you know? And for deaf people, especially, it's even harder. How can we communicate? We can't just orally speak to them all the time in some cases. And yes, let me reiterate, the educational system is broken. That's back to the basics. But that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Well, I think we're about to run out of time now. And it's been really a fantastic time together. And I'm sure the audience had a lot to say. So right now, with it being 9:22 in the evening, there are a few questions from those who've been typing on the chat. And I want to read a few of them. Let's see what happens. And if you participate in the chat and posted your questions, and I see that light on my so Nicole says,
Oh, hey there.
how are you? What would be, the question is, what would be the best for Black Deaf America, the personal struggle that they face every day? What is the best strategy for that? I mean, patience or pressure, dealing with it every day? Well, now the question is basically what is the best suggestion from you about how Black deaf people who deal with struggles and deal with the oppression, what advices could you provide them? Kojo, you can take that if you want. I mean, some of them may be feeling like, wow, I just really don't know which way to go on this. So, you know, there is the point of stress and tension right there. As I mentioned before, there's that fear that's right there, what to do next. So the question is, how should we deal with that? Kojo?
Okay, really briefly. First of all, ask questions. Learn from other Black adults. Okay? I encourage Black deaf people to find someone that you trust to ask questions to. And secondly, read. Trust me, y'all, read. You know, the most dangerous person that most of y'all fear, or most people fear, is the Black man, right? And if we have a double threat, on top of that, what causes that double threat is education. That will cause and spread fear. And thirdly, trust your judgment, trust your own judgment, trust yourself, trust your instinct. If you're not sure, then go to your number one person that you ask. I mean, whatever you do, please, I can't say this enough, educate yourself, read a book, you know, and that's it.
I want to add
Isadora,
something.
wait a minute. Cheryl, did you want to say something?
Yes, first, we have to be honest. We have to allow ourselves to feel. Many of times we do not allow ourselves to feel. We as Black women especially, we are a strong Black woman, but inside we are tearing up and tearing to pieces. Our hearts are breaking. We are afraid. Let's be real. Accept how we are feeling. Accept that we're grieving. Accept those tears. I can't tell you how many calls I've gotten this week. I mean, of course, me as well. I'm calling other people as well. But first, allow ourselves to be human. People are afraid that they're removing our sensitivity and who we are as humans, as part of humanity. So that's what I would say. Be human.
Ryan, you want to say something? Or is it Isidore that's next? I mean, really, from my advice would be, I think this applies to everyone, it's really
Personally, I am a genocide survivor.
I mean, to live every day as if it is your last, to be grateful.
Yeah.
And number two, I would say to just love everyone, but trust just a few. I mean, you have to be available to understand the fact that man can preach to you, but also think good of everyone. And then have good intentions for others. They may misunderstand you, but that's not your fault. Keep on going. That would be my advice.
Practice self-care. Allow yourself to disconnect from all of the overstimulus of information, whether that's texting or emails, you're getting people apologizing. Hey, how can I help? Shut it all out. Take time for yourself. Know how to replenish your energy, whether that's sleeping, eating, doing some exercise, whatever you want to do. Make sure you fill yourself and make sure that you have enough fuel to go back into the world. So that would say self-care.
So I have a question from Stuart Linsky. And he's asking, how do deaf white people be able to help improve the lives of Black deaf people? You got 2 minutes to deal with that one. Anybody want to take that one on? Wow, you seem like you're kind of inhibited back there. How about you, Kojo?
Call out their
Call
white
them
friends.
out.
Oh, you got it.
Call out your white friends, you know. I mean, I ask my white friends here, who are each individuals in the system, right? On Facebook, I see them apologizing. They try to hope that the storm will reside eventually and things will go back to how they were and how they've been doing, which is being a part of the oppressive system. So I encourage to call out the system, to go ahead and express your anger, to talk about how you're upset or disappointed repeatedly. If you are a white bystander who calls yourself an ally and you see other white people today, right? You see them out doing what they're doing out today. You see them on social media apologizing. Y'all know who you are. I mean,
you got busted.
White people, y'all got busted. You know, you right got caught. Yeah. You was hidden, and now y'all got caught. You know, and so now it's time for y'all white people to call them out.
Okay, that's a good one. I really wish we had more time with just one more question, but I think we have one more from Kyle Halen Williams, and this is a good one, I believe. Can you list the names of presenters from any of y'all who could be, or even publications that we can read? When I basically means that not only by way of presentation and books and workshops and things like that, but who that can be followed and we can apply it. I think, Ryan, you said Google was a good source, but people are looking for help on how to find things. I mean, White Fragility, that book is out now.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
There are other reading materials out there that I think can be a help to this issue.
I just want to add to check out the NBDA website.
Good.
we upload every week. We upload new resources, and so this week you can check it out. What resources are on the website now. I have a link on my Facebook page that I can share with you all. And, you know, the link is real long, but there are some suggestions on how, including children's books for children to learn about the history of slavery and all that. And I can send this to you within this panel, and you all can share with whoever wants it.
Great, great, great. Like I say, there's so many questions that are, but I think we're coming to the end of the time. Ryan, you want to say something?
Yeah, lastly, I just wanted to talk about this hot book that's out called Systemic Racism by
How to
Ibram.
Be Anti-Racist.
Oh, thank you. How to Be Anti-Racist by Ibram. And that is he's a great researcher, and so I totally recommend him.
And it's by Ibram Kendi. And then additionally, I actually wanted to just add something real quick. Just 2 last words. I want to call out my sister because I think she's doing a fantastic work, which is Victoria Monroe. Victoria Monroe, she is a Black deaf woman. She is doing some great work. She's hosted some workshops for deaf, white folks. It doesn't matter. I want to tell y'all, go to her workshops, Victoria Monroe. And then the second thing I want to drop real quick tonight is, I have a few names. Frankie McCurry, hashtag Black Deaf killed are killed by the police. Terrell Shaw, another Black deaf who right now is incarcerated by the police. Eric Smith, Black deaf, murdered by the police. I want to call out Pearl Pearson, police brutality. I want to call out, let me get another name, Robert M. experienced police brutality. So those names I just called out, remember them.
Thank you for those names. Thank you so much. So again, I want to thank everyone on the panel. Thank you for sharing your time with us in your busy schedule. Also, I want to say that this has really been an amazing thing, and looking at the protests and what's going on out there. My brothers and sisters, to make a forum like this, and I'm like, wow, yes, definitely. So gave me the names of some people, and I contacted each of you. All of you were more than willing to participate. So I want to thank you for this vision and for the idea that came from Natasha. I want to thank you to Deepan for providing the live streaming. I want to thank Miles Debastian and Theodore. I think I said the name right.
Exactly.
I want to thank
ZVRS for sponsoring the interpreters.
The interpreter that would be including Jeffrey Bowden, Jacinda Dumas, and also Letitia Bino. Excellent. I also want to thank, by the way,
we also want to thank Convo as well.
Convo, and for CMAS, the
captioner was Miles.
So I just want to say that this platform, thank you for this platform, and thank you for everyone that's involved, for the audience. Thank you for participating and for watching. And I pray that you do something, that you all have something to do. Don't be overwhelmed by it. I know there's a lot that we have to digest. but it takes a chance for us to do some soul searching and
Exactly.
get back out there and work. To my brothers and sisters from all over the world, Black, deaf, whatever color you are, know that we have love for all of you, and continue, stay safe, stay healthy, stay strong, and stay blessed. And in the end, love will spread. God bless you
Amen.
all.
Love
Thank
you all. You too, Wawa. Take care, guys. Good night,
One
everyone.
love, y'all.